Well, what could this be? Well, look at that. Here's the steering column I'm going to use. Since it's an automatic, I'm not going to be using the one that came with it. This is actually out of a 64 Fairlane. So this will be the automatic shifter. There'll be a dial there, of course, a lever there, turn indicator here. But here's where it gets interesting. Because I'm going to rack and pinion, this is not going to go straight into a gearbox. It has to go to a universal joint. I have one of these that just happens to fit exactly inside of a stock column. I think I got this online, and it's got bearings, so that'll hold it nice and steady, but I have to be able to mount this to this and still have access to this. The good news is I still have that 62 column, so I think I'm going to graft a piece to fit this gap right here. Okay, I realize this is going to be a one-time deal. Once this is welded on, this rotating center shaft is not going to come out. But I don't really think it needs to at this point. We'll line this up, get it where we need it, put some magnets to hold it in the right place, run the shaft through, maybe even bolt the steering wheel on the other side and keep it straight, and then I'll start welding that on. So I matched up all the marks with the original steering column that was in here. This is about the depth. Initially, I'd put it together, and the steering wheel was like way out here, which wasn't going to do. Because it was a steering box and not a rack and pinion, the bottom was actually supported by the old steering box. So I have to make something to hold that in place. Here's the original cover for the floor. There's a rubber gasket behind it. This goes on the floor. So what I came up with to hold the bottom was I made an 1/8 inch plate, or a little less than an 1/8 inch plate, put some tabs on it. This is going to bolt over all of that, grab onto the steering wheel here, and what I'm going to do is something I saw in actually a pretty expensive kit, but it's a real simple idea, is just put a hose clamp right there, and that'll hold everything in place. Continuing on with the controls in the steering column, I was able to fab up this kind of adjustable linkage here that just, from inside the car, it works really well. I do have to make a little bit of clearance on the exhaust pipe down there. But as to the steering, this is where things get a little strange. We've got just a standard double D, 3/4 double D linkage on here, or U-joint rather. And when you get down to this linkage on the Crown Victoria rack, it's actually not a double D, and I thought it was, but it's not. You can see it's actually triangle shaped. It is about 3/4 of an inch, and there is a special U-joint for that. And this is it. This is the one that came out of the car. It articulates very strangely with this knuckle here like this. I don't know why that is. I'm sure the engineers know more than I did when they built it. But in any event, it looks like in order to keep it from binding or doing anything weird, I need to have these 2 points in parallel. Oh yes, the ongoing debate. Which collar do I use? This is the original one. I ordered a new steering bearing for it. But what I was going to do was use this one, and I based all my steering shaft length and steering column length based on this one. And then I come to find out that although I thought this was actually the race of the bearing that would come out, it's not. It's part of the casting, and this for this year, I don't even know what. This might have been out of a Fairlane. It's not going to work. So I move on to my 65 Ranchero column. This one was actually a automatic transmission car, so it has a spot for the pointer, just like this one does. This was a stick shift or a column shift on the truck, so that I can't use. So I'm going to use probably the one from the Ranchero because it meets all my needs. And the turn indicator assembly I got, which is much cheaper than the one for the truck. These are like 70 bucks. These are like 25 bucks, and they're really common. So I'm going to use this one. I'm familiar with this. It's the same as a Falcon Mustang Ranchero. All right, stepping out to the paint booth. I started with self-etching primer, and I'm following it up with some Duplicolor Wimbledon white. So we'll see if it takes. It's not going to be a perfect paint job. It's it's a pretty old steering wheel, and I didn't do a great job of preparing it. I should have spent a little more time fine sanding it, but all the cracks are covered up, and that was the main thing. I just gotten to a point where I needed to decide what to do here because I can't really mount the power steering in its final position until I know where the air conditioner is going to be. The only thing I'm missing is everything that goes under there. Let's see if I can light that up. And as you just saw, that showed up. Like I said, pretty darn good timing. Another concern was where the radiator is going to lie. The original mounts on the back here, and as you can see, it doesn't give me a lot of room. So stock radiator is not going to work. I laid out a couple of them. This one's a dual pass. Then I have a single pass that's a lot wider, but I didn't know if that was going to be enough since the stock one is so much bigger. So what I think I'm going to do, or what I have done, is I've ordered a radiator, and I think I'm going to mount it in here. If all else fails, then there's not enough room up here. I'll either go to electric fans, which I probably will. So let's hope that this all fits. On the inside of the cab, we've got the lines coming out, and this is where my plans change from the instructions. What they're supposed to do, you're supposed to put this panel right here with your vents. Kind of gave it away there. You can see where I'm going already. And then you put the little 3 knobs right there, but I've already got this spot right here I'm not using. So So I'm going to use the dash for the 3 knobs that come in the kit, and then instead of using the square vents, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mount some round ones here in the dash. On the corners they have you, and this is for the other side, but basically they have these things. Like I said, this is for the passenger side. I don't really much care for that hanging down there. Just feel like it's something I'm going to hit. So what I did is, since you have to cover the vents that are operated by cable, and the cable handles there, I figured I'm going to put these here instead. So I'm going to run my hoses along the dashboard for the vents, rather, the vent hoses along the dashboard, rather than have them under the dashboard. I think it's going to look cleaner. They're round. I don't really care for the square ones. Everything on the dash is round. So we'll give that a try and see how that works. I got a text that something was delivered. Oh yeah, there we go. Cool. That would be a radiator. Nice. Air conditioning is mounted. Let's take a look at the lineup of the pulleys. So the lineup on the front of the crank and the power steering pulleys, just perfect. So I try to bring that up to the air conditioner, and it looks like it's just about exactly the right place. For now, the plan is to have the build come off there, go around here, go around the outside of that, down here, around there, and then again around the water pump, which is reverse rotation. And hopefully that'll keep the belts out of the way. It's gonna look a little odd, but and I don't have any kind of idler in there, so I'm hoping that this angle is enough to drive this. We'll find out. Oh, the best laid plans don't really work sometimes. So here's my issue. Here's the issue. There's not nearly enough drag on this. This is in the way of any kind of idler. And I've got hoses and stuff up there that I can't put an idler on. So this, I think, has to come out a little more this way. Like a lot more. Way out there. Okay, we have this lovely, lovely bracket, which I made. And definitely puts a lot of tension on there, so nothing's going to slip. It's kind of a wild routing. Not too bad a thing. This is good. Like I said, this can go over this way. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I like the idea of having this area clear of any kind of belts. The other option is to do this and have it go down that way to the alternator. But again, now we're getting into belt territory. And I've already got one belt down here that's going to be a likely issue. I'm going to have to probably turn it a little bit with a hose, or maybe even cut that off and re-weld it at an angle, which is an option. I don't want to do that, but I could. I don't want to do that. So I'll probably use maybe a little bit of a curved hose. I'll make something work there, but I think we're going to go with option 1. It'll work. It'll work. It'll give me enough tension on this that it really fights me to turn it, which is good. Wow. And you can see this thing kind of points up and in, which might work for something else, but there's this darn power steering pump in the way. So This taper's down quite a bit. I'm not sure I can do much about that. What I can do is just change the clocking on this. I'm going to turn it so it points down, and I think that will get me around everything. I just came back from the hardware store when I got one of these plugs. And this is the best I could do on this side. So let's see what happens. This is holding and nothing's bubbling up, so I think we're good to go.
Blow a whole lot more than that little motor can pull in. It's got a power bed that starts at 3,500 and goes to 8 grand.
Okay, this is set kind of where I want it. This is about 3/4 of an inch of clearance between the condenser and the radiator. And this angle looks really good. This thing comes down, it looks like it's going to exit about 2.5 inches below pulley, which is exactly where I want it. I have AC lines. I just had these crimped up this morning, as you can see from my clocking marks. Everything seems to clear. And another thing has happened. We've got the grill back on. I just got the vents for that, so I can drill those holes. San Diego's finest. I thought that was going to be military. Where was I? Oh yeah, inside. What's left to do in here? Well, drill some holes in the dashboard, put the vents in. And I thought I was pretty clever. And then I was watching River City, the guy that does Crown Vic swaps, old F100s onto Crown Vics. And then I see his truck is all done, and guess what? He's done this already, so I can't take credit for it, although I think it's going to be really cool when it's done. So air conditioning is coming along. These came out really good. I like where they are. These ones, unfortunately, having to work on a concave compound curve because it's just used to be the pull lever for the vents, which have been deleted, the floor vents or side vents. So only fresh air now coming in is going to be coming in from inside the car, I guess. Anyway, so this one is good. And those two are good, but I marked it higher than I actually drilled it. I wanted to have this reveal similar to those. So this one, I kind of dollied it out a little bit, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to make that flat enough. One thing I do want to do is see if I can get these to take some paint. Finished up most of the air conditioning. It's about 99% done now. I got all the vents in. I like where they are. And I painted the outside rim. I'm not sure how that's going to ultimately look, but it is what it is. One of the things that I was dealing with was the controls. I think earlier I'd mentioned that I didn't want to use the plastic that they give you that holds the vents, so I moved these up, and then all the controls are right about in here. And I didn't like the look of that either. I wanted to keep the dashboard clean. So I have all these over here, the original ones, and I really like the way they look.